General Hospital will reveal interesting facts on Tuesday, April 29, 2025. First, the scene was set to capture a critical turning point, one laden with tension and calculated deceit. Drew, determined to sabotage any chance of Willow reuniting with Michael, orchestrated a plan that reeked of manipulation. Knowing that Willow's heart was steadfast and her determination to see Michael unwavering, Drew realized that ordinary obstacles would not be enough to deter her. He needed to strike where it would hurt most, her hope. Before Willow arrived in Germany, Drew had already moved quietly behind the scenes. He approached the receptionist at the facility where Michael was recovering, offering a substantial bribe in exchange for complicity. It was a simple yet cruel instruction: if Willow arrived asking for Michael, she was to be told that Michael did not wish to see her. No explanations. No exceptions. A blunt rejection designed to shatter Willow's expectations before she even had the chance to see his face. When Willow stepped into the cold, sterile lobby of the center, the chill in the air seemed to mirror the words she received. The receptionist, her smile strained and her eyes avoiding Willow's gaze, delivered the lie without hesitation. Willow, confused and heartbroken, stood there frozen, clutching the small gift she had brought for Michael, her mind struggling to process the rejection. She had crossed oceans for this moment, only to be met with a closed door she couldn't even knock on. Satisfied that this first wave of sabotage had successfully pierced Willow's resolve, Drew was far from finished. The poisonous seed of doubt he planted was only the beginning. Fearful that Willow's stubborn spirit might eventually push her to find a way around the fabricated rejection, Drew devised further schemes to ensure that Michael and Willow remained apart. He manipulated travel documents, rerouting messages, intercepting any correspondence that could lead Willow back to Michael. Each deceitful move was executed with precision, cloaked behind a facade of concern and support. Drew even went so far as to stage anonymous messages, hinting that Michael had moved on, that he was angry with Willow for abandoning him, twisting the knife deeper into her already wounded heart. He sowed lies with every passing day, crafting a narrative so dark and convincing that Willow began questioning everything she once believed. What had started as a noble journey to find the man she loved was slowly morphing into a labyrinth of betrayal and despair. Meanwhile, those around them began to see Drew's true colors. His calculated cruelty, masked under the guise of protecting Willow, became increasingly obvious. Whispers of his manipulations spread, and with them, the seeds of resentment blossomed. Friends who had once defended Drew turned their backs, unable to stomach the depths to which he was willing to sink. Despite his efforts, cracks began to form in the carefully constructed walls Drew had built. Willow's instincts, though battered, were not completely silenced. Doubt gnawed at her, not about Michael's love, but about the strange obstacles placed before her. She began retracing her steps, questioning the stories, the sudden silences, the forced rejections. What Drew had underestimated was the power of love's persistence, the fierce, unyielding hope that refused to die. As the truth hovered just beyond reach, ready to erupt like a storm, Drew pressed on desperately, knowing that once Willow discovered the full extent of his deception, he would lose everything, not just her trust, but his own fragile standing among those he had tried to manipulate. In his frantic quest to control the future, Drew had unknowingly ensured his own downfall, setting into motion a chain of events that would leave no one untouched by the consequences of his treachery. Second, Lucas had never been particularly lucky in love. The old wound still ached quietly within him like a persistent, dull pain that refused to disappear. As time passed, Lucas seemed to have accepted loneliness as an inseparable part of his life. However, everything began to change when Marcus entered his world quietly yet steadfastly. Marcus was unlike anyone Lucas had ever known, never ostentatious, never making grand promises. He was simply present, a silent strength beside Lucas during his darkest moments. When Lucas felt himself crumbling under the weight of the sorrow Brad had left behind, it was Marcus who was there, offering a gentle gaze and an outstretched hand without hesitation. Marcus did more than listen. He understood even the things Lucas could not express with words. On those long, dragging afternoons when the sunset painted the sky in melancholy hues, Lucas gradually realized that Marcus's presence wove a tender warmth through every fractured piece of his soul. No hollow words of comfort were needed, just Marcus's gaze, seeing him not as a burden, not as something broken needing to be fixed, but as a person deserving of love. Slowly, Lucas began to rediscover the trust he had once lost, piece by piece, through the small gestures Marcus offered. A hot cup of coffee in the morning, a warm scarf on cold days, a brief text message asking how he was amidst the chaos of daily life. What seemed trivial to others became a safety net carefully built around Lucas, a place where he could breathe freely without having to pretend to be strong. Marcus, through his unassuming tenderness, touched the deepest wounds in Lucas, helping them to heal without force, without erasure. But fate, as always, refused to stand still when things finally began to look bright. One evening, as Lucas was packing up to leave their favorite coffee shop, he accidentally overheard a conversation between Marcus and a stranger. What he heard chilled his blood. Marcus seemed to be hiding a secret, a part of his past that he had never revealed, something connected to Brad that Lucas had never suspected. The feeling of betrayal surged through Lucas, tearing him between a desperate desire to trust and the gnawing fear of being hurt again. In the days that followed, Lucas tried to act as if nothing had changed, but each time Marcus looked at him with that familiar warmth, he felt the weight in his chest grow heavier. Doubt began to seep into everything. Every beautiful memory they had shared became tinged with a creeping darkness. Marcus remained the same, patient, gentle, but Lucas was no longer himself. He grew guarded, distant, building invisible walls even Marcus could not cross. Unable to endure the torment much longer, Lucas finally decided to confront Marcus. Yet, before he could speak, Marcus sought him out. On a night of relentless rain, in a small room where the only sound was the rain tapping against the windows, Marcus confessed everything. He spoke of his past connection with Brad, of how he had once witnessed the damage Brad had caused Lucas but had been powerless to intervene. Marcus had not approached Lucas out of pity or guilt. From the very first moment he had seen the sadness in Lucas's eyes, he had known he could not walk away. The truth cut deeply but also offered a strange kind of salvation. In that moment, Lucas realized that love was not about perfection, but about choosing to accept the cracks, the mistakes, and still wanting to stay. Beneath the cold rain, Lucas let go of the last of his defenses, stepping closer to Marcus, allowing himself, at long last, to believe in a future where he would no longer be alone. Third, there was an unspoken tension lingering in the air, something so palpable that even the casual observer could feel it seeping through every glance, every fleeting moment of contact. Portia had not expected to find herself in this position, watching from a distance as Curtis and Jordan stood close together, their heads bent in quiet conversation, their bodies leaning ever so slightly toward one another with an intimacy that stung far deeper than words ever could. It was supposed to be a strategic alliance, a practical collaboration to bring Drew down once and for all. Yet, as Portia observed them, she knew instinctively that it had already evolved into something more dangerous, something far more personal. The plan they had crafted together was meticulous, designed to dismantle Drew's influence and expose every lie he had built his empire upon. Jordan's sharp instincts and Curtis's tactical mind complemented each other too perfectly, their synergy undeniable to anyone who happened to witness it. Every secret meeting, every exchange of ideas, every shared glance pulled them closer, weaving an invisible thread between them that neither seemed willing, or able, to resist. Portia felt it in the way Curtis spoke about Jordan now, not with the cold detachment of former lovers forced into cooperation, but with a subtle warmth, an underlying respect that hadn't existed before. She noticed it in the way his voice softened whenever he mentioned her name, in the way his eyes betrayed a spark of admiration that was impossible to hide. Curtis, who had once been so guarded, so carefully measured, seemed different around Jordan, lighter somehow, more open in a way that Portia had not seen in a long time. Watching them together ignited a slow, simmering fury within Portia, a rage born not just of jealousy but of a deep, gnawing sense of betrayal. She had fought so hard to build something lasting with Curtis, to offer him stability, trust, and a future free from the shadows of the past. Yet here he was, willingly drawn back into a world they had both vowed to leave behind, tethered to a woman who, despite everything, still held a piece of his heart. Portia tried to tell herself it was all business, a necessary evil in a complicated game of alliances and deceptions. But no matter how much she tried to rationalize it, the sight of Curtis and Jordan plotting together, moving in seamless harmony, filled her with a sense of dread she could not shake. She knew too well how dangerous such closeness could be, how easily old wounds could reopen under the right conditions. It was not just Drew they were playing with. It was their own unresolved emotions, their own fragile history, teetering on the edge of something they might not be able to control. The more Portia watched, the more she realized she was losing ground, not just in the battle against Drew but in the fight for Curtis's loyalty. She could see the storm brewing in the distance, a collision course of emotions and betrayals that would eventually come crashing down around them. And no matter how fiercely she clung to what she had built, no matter how tightly she tried to hold Curtis's heart in her hands, she could feel it slipping through her fingers, pulled inexorably back toward a past that refused to die. In the shadow of their schemes against Drew, a far more personal war was being waged, a battle for loyalty, for love, for the future itself, and Portia knew with chilling certainty that it was a battle she might not win. Fourth, Gio had always believed he understood his place in the world, but everything shifted the moment Tracy confronted him with a suspicion he never expected. Without hesitation, she accused him of being Brooke Lynn's child, her words delivered with the cold precision that left no room for doubt. In that instant, Gio felt the solid ground beneath him tremble, his mind struggling to grasp the enormity of what she had just implied. The shock rippled through him, paralyzing his thoughts as Tracy's gaze pinned him where he stood. She wasn't speculating, she had pieced it together from subtle clues, moments Gio had dismissed without question. Every gesture, every awkward silence from those around him now seemed loaded with hidden meaning, and the life he thought he knew began unraveling thread by thread. As Tracy pressed him with sharp, deliberate questions, Joe's heart pounded with a rising sense of betrayal. Memories that once brought comfort now felt tainted by secrecy. He had lived his entire life trusting people who might have woven a careful web of lies around him, and the realization burned deep into his core. The innocence he once clung to was slipping away faster than he could hold on to it. Tracy, relentless in her pursuit of the truth, painted a grim portrait of deceit and buried regrets. Was Gio simply a secret shame hidden away to protect reputations? Was his life manipulated from the very beginning? Every unanswered question stabbed at him, and he realized that the truth, when it came, would likely hurt more than the lies ever had. Despite the swirl of emotions threatening to drown him, Gio forced himself to stay standing, masking the storm within him. He would not allow Tracy to see how deeply her words had struck, nor would he let anyone else control the narrative of his life any longer. The shock might have shaken him, but it also sparked a deep and immovable need for answers. In that cold, heavy silence that followed, Gio made a quiet promise to himself. Whatever the truth was, no matter how painful, no matter how much it tore apart what he thought he knew, he would find it. He would drag every hidden secret into the light, and when he did, he would finally be free from the chains of the past that no one had ever warned him he was wearing. Finally, Anna was not easily rattled, but when she overheard unsettling information about Emma, a deep, burning anger surged within her. She learned that her once sweet granddaughter, who had always been the symbol of hope and innocence in her life, was beginning to rebel in ways Anna never imagined possible. The reports were vague at first, whispers of defiance, secret meetings, and risky behavior that didn't align with the girl she thought she knew. As the details became clearer, Anna's anger deepened into something heavier, a mix of fury and heartbreak. Emma was sneaking out, associating with people Anna had warned her to stay away from, and pushing boundaries not just out of youthful recklessness, but with an edge of deliberate defiance. It wasn't the mistakes that stung the most, it was the realization that Emma was consciously choosing a path that could lead to real consequences, and worse, that she had hidden it all from the family who loved her most. Anna's mind raced with memories, wondering where things had gone wrong, when exactly the shift had happened. She had fought so hard to shield Emma from the darker parts of life, only to see her seek them out willingly. It felt like a personal failure, a betrayal of all the hopes she had nurtured for her granddaughter's future. Anger pulsed under Anna's skin, not just at Emma's choices, but at her own helplessness to stop the inevitable fallout. The more Anna thought about it, the more the anger became a roaring force she couldn't contain. She wasn't just angry because Emma had rebelled, she was furious because she knew what awaited down that road. Anna had lived enough, seen enough, to recognize the dangers Emma was too young and too stubborn to fully understand. Her fury was born of fear that Emma would fall too far before realizing the cost of her rebellion. As Anna stood alone, processing everything she had learned, she knew one thing for certain: she would not sit by silently while Emma risked everything. Whether Emma wanted to hear it or not, Anna was prepared to confront her head-on, ready to fight for her, even if it meant fighting against her. Because in the end, no matter how much anger boiled inside her, it was love, fierce, stubborn, immovable love, that fueled it all.